ready for that to explode on you.
Guinness isn't going to explode.
Hey guys, it's Christy from Last Call for Plastisol, and today I'm here with Aaron from Blue Ridge Screen Products. Hey Aaron.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Cheers.
I like Guinness on a Friday at noon. Gotta love that.
Yeah. Is it noon yet?
It's about to be.
Yeah, it is in my head. So, Jeremy today is doing our production manager role.
I love the role of cameraman.
It's just going to be me and you chatting it up, which
Like
I kind of like. So Aaron, it's been almost a year since you've been in business?
Yeah.
How's it been going?
Amazing. Very, very amazing. The growth has been explosive. It's been well received. I think the community is really excited about what we have to offer the screen print community. And, yeah, I will say our growth is showing that. So, this is now going to be our third move. So we're already expanding into yet another building, which is, really just going to be our digital side of the business. So the building that we're in right now is still going to remain screen printing. And then our other building is solely going to be dedicated to, DTF.
Awesome. You buy buildings like I buy houses. So if anybody that did not see our first episode with you or may not be familiar with you, can you tell me about Blue Ridge Screen Products, what you guys do, what you offer?
Sure. Blue Ridge Screen Products is here for the screen printing community. We are here to offer both consulting services as well as best-in-class products for anything you may do in regards to screen printing. So if you're wondering whether or not the product you use is best in class, you can literally just look on our website, and if it's not one of the products we carry, it's probably not. Okay. So that is literally all we carry. And just because it's best in class doesn't mean it's most expensive. It just means due to my extensive experience in this industry over 30 years, we have been able to figure out which are the best products and from the best manufacturers in the industries.
Awesome. And what kind of brands do you carry? Can you name a few for me?
Sure. So for emulsions, we carry Murakami. For tape, we carry PMI tape. We carry Core Chem chemicals. We carry Monarch inks. Just to name a few. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. In regards to screens, we carry GSF screens, which again, as everybody knows, those are best-in-class screens. So as you can tell, most if not all the products we carry are definitely top line.
Awesome. Who's going to burp first today, me or you?
Probably you. I don't think Guinness is really burping. Our cameraman might be the guy who burps first.
He's already burping. So we'll do a burp count.
Perfect.
And I saw you out at ISS Long Beach. We just got back a couple of weeks ago. Wow, what a show this year.
What a show. I will say it was really exciting to see. That's probably the busiest I have seen that show since probably 2016. It was incredible just to see the community coming out, to see all of our old friends back again. I was really impressed in how many companies from the Carolinas were there.
Yeah.
There was a lot. It was really exciting to see everybody there, and the amount of people that were there really shows to I think the health of our industry.
Yeah.
And the fact that it really has done a really good job of making it post-COVID.
I thought the same thing. I was really shocked. Last year I thought there was a good showing there, but this year blew it out of the water. And I was in the Gilliam booth, and both days it was just nonstop people coming through. And I think a lot of the vendors that I talked to, they were really shocked by how many people were there on Friday, especially.
Oh, Friday was amazing. And I will say from a vendor's or, from a supplier's point of view, to not have a booth there this year, because this is the first year we did not have a booth there, was really kind of cool, because I really got a better opportunity to spend time with key suppliers, finding out what's new, what can we offer our customers that we may not already have, what are the new innovations, especially as we continue to grow, where, automation is key, especially as we continue to move through the years. I think everybody can attest to, finding employees is getting increasingly difficult. So automation is huge in our industry. So to see who's coming out with new stuff and what type of automation and how that's actually going to impact our customers, I think was really, really important that we could bring that back to the South and really explain to our customers why certain things are beneficial.
Yeah. And were you able to take any classes or listen to any of the shop talks while you were there?
I would have loved to have, but to be honest with you, we only had 2 days.
Hmm.
and it was so busy that literally it took us 2 days just to get through the show.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've never seen the show like that since probably
Yeah.
2016.
So for me, one of the main takeaways from this show, there was a lot of focus on AI and how that can help screen printing shops. I don't know that much about AI. Jeremy kind of dabbles in that more than
Hmm.
I do. I like Chat GPT, and of course, Screen Print GPT has come out. Any of that pique your interest while you're at the show, or did you get to learn anything about it?
It is really fascinating. We are just dabbling into it, and I think it is such at its infancy that I think whatever we're learning now is probably going to change in a year.
Yeah.
Because AI is, again, even GPT is on its like third version now.
Hmm.
So I think it's ever evolving. I'm excited to see where it goes and what it can actually do for screen printing. But again, right now I think it's so early to try to adopt anything that's coming out right now into our production. I think maybe a little bit too early. I
Yeah.
mean, there are some cool things like I'm seeing, art seps now starting to happen through AI. How accurate that is, I don't think anybody really knows yet because I don't think anybody's really
Hmm.
put it through its paces. So I'm excited where it's going. It's not to a place yet where I feel comfortable being a full adopter of it and then bring it to our screen printers and going, hey, this is the wave of the future, which I'm sure
Yeah.
it will be eventually. We're just not quite there yet.
Yeah, I would agree with that analysis. It's got interesting features, but you still need to know what you're doing when you're using those tools, to make sure the results you're getting are correct and not going to slow down production or anything like that
Yeah, I
in
don't
the
see it.
press.
I don't see it replacing something, but I do see it making what we do easier.
Hmm.
So if I already know how to do my steps, then if I'm having something else do it, then I can still review it and go, okay, yeah, that's absolutely correct. That's the way it's
Yeah.
supposed to do it. Where I think if I'm just blindly going into it, I think it's a little, at this stage, I think it's a little too new for us to just kind of hand everything over and
Yeah.
expect it to do everything.
I agree with that. What was another one of the innovations or like key pieces that you took away from the show or you thought was gonna change the game?
I was really, as far as game changing, probably one of the coolest thing I saw was actually, it was in the interchange booth, and it
Hmm.
was actually on the backside of one of their dryers when it's an Italian company who is creating an auto stacker
Hmm.
for the back of the dryer so that you're basically creating something that collects the shirts. So
Yeah.
I'm not having to have a person sitting there on the end of the dryer, which depending on how you do business may be good or may not be, right? So if you do one of your main ways of doing QC is having that person on the end of the dryer, then probably that's not a good application for you. But if that's not how you do it, if you do QC off of the press before it goes into the dryer and you literally just need something to stack, then I thought it was a phenomenal piece of equipment that was really innovative. And they
Yeah.
actually took it from the dry cleaning industry and it just happened to adopt it to the screen printing industry. So I thought that was a really cool piece of equipment that I think may have its merits.
Yeah, I did not see that, but I would be interested in seeing that. I know, like, especially in like our shop and then my shop previously, like if you're short staffed, that's the position that gets cut first, or
Mm-hmm.
we pull from first because we're so busy printing shirts. But it is an integral piece to the shop to make sure the shirts are getting stacked and out the door
Yeah.
too.
So that was one of
So,
the I will say that was one of the coolest things that I saw there. I will say it was definitely dominated by DTF too.
mhm,
So, it was interesting to see. Obviously, I have some, opinions on that one, but it was interesting to see where the DTF is going.
yeah,
Um, and how that growth of that market is ever evolving. And I think it's really going to be, in my opinion, I think DTF is really going to be an integral part of almost every screen printer
mhm,
in the fact that historically, all of us as screen printers have always taken a hit. And what I mean by that is, okay, I've gotten this really good job. I love this customer. I do, 350 pieces for them all the time, and I've got a, 5-piece reorder.
mhm,
Well, I'm going to lose my ass on that.
yep,
And we as screen printers have always taken it on the chin for reorders, and I just know that's part of doing business, and I'm just going to lose money on certain jobs. Where the thing I like about DTF is the fact that I no longer have to lose money. I literally can make money on every single job I print.
yeah,
So if I have to do a reorder of a 5-piece reorder, okay, great. They just know it's going to be DTF, but I make
mhm,
money. I don't have to lose money. So to know that every piece and every job I do, I'm now making money and I no longer have to lose money, I think that's huge.
It is. It changes the screen printing game. And I know last year when I went to the show, that was my big takeaway was like how good DTF is now. And even between last year and now, like the quality in DTF has changed tremendously. And I'm not ashamed to sell it anymore. Whereas a couple years ago, I didn't want anything to do with it because screen printing was far superior. So it's exciting to see. But you were talking like you have thoughts on DTF. I think you have a big announcement.
Well, yeah, for those of you who don't know, Mamaki has chosen Blue Ridge Screen Products to be their distributor for the entire South. So, which is really exciting for
That
Blue Ridge.
is. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you. If you think about all the players that are here, there are significantly bigger players. So, why would Mamaki choose Blue Ridge to partner up with rather than some of the other bigger suppliers that are out here? And I think the takeaway that I took was just sheer knowledge base is, not only have I been in the screen printing industry for a really long time, I've also been in the digital industry for a really long time. So I know the equipment very, very well. And I think our go-to-market strategy and the fact that we're just not a big box seller, we actually get involved with our customers and we have more of an intimate relationship with our customers, and we can advise and help and ensure that when we're installing something, it is the right piece of equipment for what they're needing to do. And I think, Mamaki's not just interested in selling a ton of boxes, although that would be nice, and a ton of printers. I think they want to make sure that it is successful at launch, and they want to make sure that, hey, you're placing these printers in good applications for people who this is exactly what they want to do, and you know how to support it. And I think that's the other thing is we're fully committed to supporting it. So we already have service techs on staff. So we're not outsourcing our service to either a service bureau or contract service people. These are actually Blue Ridge employees. So I think that in my opinion, I think that's why they chose us over everybody else.
Okay. And so last time we talked to you, we talked about the move from a manual to an automatic screen printing press. Now that shops are using DTF and outsourcing that production of the DTF and then they're just pressing in-house, what point do you think a shop should add DTF in-house? Like what kind of factors should they be looking at?
Well, I think it's a lot of its volume and it's a lot of its control. So I think it's a two-edged sword. If you don't necessarily have the volume, but you want the control, then I think you definitely need to bring it in-house. If you're to the point where you're outsourcing about $2,000 a month in DTF transfers, it's time to bring it in-house.
Okay.
At that point in time, you're actually above break even. So you'd actually be better off bringing it in-house.
Okay. And then what kind of factors should a shop think about for space when bringing in DTF printing?
So it takes quite a bit of space. So there's a couple things you've got to factor in. One is how big the printer and the dryers are. So you're going to need at least a length of at least 10 to 12 feet. Width, you're going to need at least 5 feet.
Okay.
So it's longer than it is wide. But the other thing to remember too is you can't turn them on their side. So you actually need a fairly wide door
to get it in.
The
Okay.
dryers are not
That's good to
small.
know.
So, and I will say that's one of the things that, and we can get into how Mamaki is different than everybody else, but that's something to remember is okay, I've got to have this in a fairly large room.
Yeah.
Right.
And that would have been a factor for me at Snatch and Run. Like we just didn't have the door space to do a lot, to move it in. So it wouldn't have worked in our location.
You may have been able to get it through the double doors in front.
Maybe. We got to move the press.
You'd have to move a lot, yeah. So at Snatch and Run, Brian, it may not have been big enough.
I shoved a lot of crap in that.
Yeah, you did. There was a lot of it. You did a very good job of space allocation.
Let me tell you, that rent was so cheap there that I was gonna stay there as long as I possibly could and go kicking and screaming out the door. So, oh well, I'm cheap.
But, hey, you got to do what you got to do.
what other factors should be, what about power? Like, do you need three-phase power in your building or anything like that?
So the dryers run off of 220.
Okay.
So you just got to know that that's got to be a different plug. The printers run off of standard 110, so
Mm-hmm.
they don't really need anything special. But you don't need three phase. It's just single phase 220.
Okay.
It's just a higher power requirement. Um, and that's really all you need for in regards to the dryer is concerned. But some other things that you need to think about in this is we try not to get too tech heavy is Chinese units versus the Mamaki units. So why
Where's
would
Mamaki from?
so Mamaki USA is out of Atlanta.
Okay.
Mamaki is actually a Japanese company. So for those who don't know Mamaki, um, Mamaki has been in the wide format textile industry forever. So if you want to look at the biggest, and even in the graphics industry, so if you want to look at the biggest players in that market, you've got HP, you've got Roland, and you've got Mamaki. Those are the big three.
What about Brother?
Brother's not even a player.
Okay.
I will say, in my opinion, Brother's really not even a player in the DTF market.
Okay.
Basically, what they're trying to do is take like the GTX series, they're basically trying to go, okay, well, DTG is kind of dead. I mean, it isn't, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's specialty applications where I think DTG is still prominent and still going to play a role. But now okay, well, we've got all these DTG's printers out there that no one can use. Oh, well, let's modify them and try to turn them into DTF printers,
Okay.
which works. It's the same ink, but not really what I would call a production unit. You're just basically taking something that you weren't using and now, okay, well, I can actually use that asset and repurpose it, but nothing what I would call a production machine. It's really not.
Hey guys, we're going to get right back to that episode, but first I want to thank our sponsors, Corchem Chemicals, Monarch Ink, Blue Ridge Screen Products, PMI Tape. We can't do it without them. They're investing in us so that we can invest in you, our print homies. Be sure to like, click, and subscribe this episode. And without further ado, back to the show.
So, I want to bring it like way, way back to Christy level.
Sure, absolutely.
Because our podcast is for beginning screen printers, intermediate level shops, people that are trying to figure some things out.
Sure.
So DTF, what kind of applications can people use DTF printing or transfers for?
Sure. So DTF works really, really well for left chest prints, arm prints, anything that is really heavy color where you just don't want to do the separations.
Mm-hmm.
So have you ever gotten that job that someone didn't do the artwork very well, but it's like a 12 color job and you're like, dude, no one's ever going to print that, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay, rather than especially if it's not a high volume job, rather than going through the process of having to redo the artwork, okay, it's just like sending a print to your printer.
Mm-hmm.
Except now you're sending it to a DTF and you don't have to redo the artwork and you can literally just print it.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you've got a printable thing that goes on a shirt.
Yeah, I love it as a salesperson because I think it provides good customer service to our customers. We're not saying like, hey, your expectations are not realistic for screen printing anymore. Maybe we can't do it in screen printing, but we can do it as DTF. So instead of just saying no, we're providing them with a solution right off the bat. It might not have the same feel or the same, the same qualities, but they're getting what they want at a good price point. So you're providing better customer service and keeping the customer around instead of them shopping for someone that's going to do it at a loss.
Oh, for sure. And I think there's things that you can do post-press wise when you transfer it to actually give it more of a silkscreen feel.
Mm-hmm. What kind of things?
So instead of using just the standard Teflon to do the transfer, after you do the transfer, if you actually put linen on the heat press, and I would typically get 5 different varieties of it. So like I go from a heavy linen to a light linen and try to match the closest weave to whatever you're trying to transfer it onto and use that to post press. It'll actually put a weave into the DTF and get rid of the sheen. And it actually makes it look like screen print.
I think you taught me that when I was at Snatch and Run, and then when I went to Rock Hill Screen Printing, and they have all these lifelong printers there, and I brought the linen trick out, they thought I was the coolest person in the world.
It works really, really well. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you for that. Okay, so back to Mamaki. Like, what makes the Mamaki machine superior in your opinion?
Easy in a 1 minute snippet, it's the fact that it doesn't have to be environmentally controlled.
That's huge.
So without getting too techie, the Chinese units require really high humidity to run,
Mhm.
which typically means they have to be in an office environment where I've got a humidifier right underneath it so I
Yeah.
can keep the humidity around 60%. On the Mamaki, they use the Ricoh Gen 5 head, which is an industrial print head
Mhm.
that does not require high humidity levels.
Okay.
So now I can put that kind of anywhere. Now, am I going to put it in a really dusty environment where no, I'm not going to do that.
No.
But I no longer need that really high humidity, atmospherically controlled environment.
Mhm. Okay. My DTF printer that we've been using, they do have the humidifiers running
Mm-hmm.
all the time around the machine. So that's really interesting that you say that because they have to pick their workspace. They have to pick their workspace based on the ability to have those things running all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then what other kind of things should people consider when buying a DTF printer?
Sure. So some of the factors to think about is the film.
Hmm.
Everything revolves around the film for the most part.
Why is that?
Um, Film has been very, very tough to develop. That's been the biggest hindrance to entry, even for the early adopters, is it's all about the static with the film, and the cheaper films have higher static,
Okay.
which means the ink doesn't really want to stick real well to it, which means your opacities are really low,
Mhm.
but it also that means your ink has a tendency to pool, and it doesn't look good, and you end up
Okay.
with a lot more banding. It's just cheap film is not the way to go.
Okay.
The other problem you end up with is batch-to-batch consistency. You can get one good roll one time and then another roll's bad.
Mhm.
And then there's also difference in coatings. Okay, am I going to do it a one coat, two coats, three coats? What type of coating is best for this particular application? For a production standpoint, I'm not a big fan of cold peel because you have to wait too long to peel it back off. If we're talking high production, it really needs to be hot/warm peel. And that development it's been years in the development. So from a distributor point of view, we've taken it upon ourselves to do all of the homework to
Mhm.
figure out which films actually work the best. And I'm telling you right now, any film that is probably under $200 a roll, you're going to struggle with.
Okay.
It's not going to be conducive to very good screen printing, to transfer printing. The other part that everyone needs to know about is colors. So part of having a relationship with whoever sells you the machine is, hey, do they know how to use CAD-Link? Do they know how to use the aftermarket software? Do they know how to create Pantones? Or is that all on me to figure out
Mhm.
as the user? If it's all on me to figure out as a user, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to struggle. It's going to take a really long time to get your colors accurate. Where you really want to partner up with a partner who's already got that work done. So as of today, we've got about 90% of the Pantone colors matched.
Okay.
So when you get your system, all of that's already done for you.
I think
So you're not having to worry about
that's
that.
really important because, like, as a salesperson, if you have clients that want PMS matching, um, and then you're saying, well, we're not doing screen printed ink anymore, we're not doing Pantones, we're gonna move to CMYK, so you've got to convert the Pantone to CMYK. Um, that does add some level of confusion, like when you're just some people, you have to pull the Pantone out of them. Well, then you have to pull the CMYK, and you're just adding more factors into the sales process where things could go wrong. So
Oh, for sure.
it's great that you guys have formulated this and that you're partnering and making sure that this variable is being taken out for your printers.
Oh, for sure. It's Blue Ridge's go-to business strategy. It's keep it simple, right? So we want to make all of our processes, no matter whether it's screen printing or digital printing, we want to make it so simple that it's easily repeatable no matter who's doing it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know, like, we print banners and stuff at Rock Hill Screen Printing, and, like, man, we go through some ink.
Yep.
What are the ink costs associated with having a DTF printer?
So whatever DTF you end up buying, you just need to know you're going to use about 3 times the amount of white per color. So
okay.
if you go through, for every single cartridge of CMYK, you're going to go through 3 cartridges of white. So, or if I have a Chinese unit, I'm going to go through 3 liters of white for every 1 liter of CMYK that I go through.
And so the Mamakis are cartridges, not refillable ink.
Correct. That's one of its actually strategic advantages is actually all of the ink is degassed. So in pigment printing, again, I don't want to get too technical, but
you take a drink every time you get technical.
Yep. You basically have a dry substance in a liquid carrier, right? So If that gets too small, it tends to dry out. So one of the problems you have with is air and stuff that has a tendency to dry out don't mix.
Mm-hmm.
So that typically ends up with a clogged jet. So when
Okay.
you have degassed inks, aren't introducing air into the line at all.
Uh-huh.
So that eliminates that issue.
Okay, so this has been one of the reasons why I've never wanted to move to it, is because I've heard this clog jet thing a million times from a million different people.
Mm-hmm.
They have to constantly keep it running. Like they would go in on their weekends and constantly have to run it to not have the clog jet. So you're saying this won't happen with the cartridges, or there's less
Well,
possibility of
I
that
would say the
happening?
cartridges is part of it. So
Okay.
having degassed inks is one of it. Having an industrial print head versus the Epson i3200 print head is also a big difference.
Okay.
And the other difference is the way Mamaki recirculates the white ink. They actually recirculate it through the dampeners, which no one else does. And they also have a drop generator actually on the press or on the printer. So it's actually monitoring every single jet individually. So if you were to ever have a clogged jet, it automatically recognizes it, move your images over so you don't ever see it, and then fixes it on the fly.
Oh, wow.
So the Mamaki printer is actually really tech heavy.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And why is there so much white used compared to all the other colors?
Well, because white is used for your opacity. So
Okay.
the white's the first thing you lay down. So it's similar to putting an underbase on when you're screen printing.
Okay.
So if you think of screen printing, you use a lot more white than you do color. Well, it's going to be the same thing with DTF.
Okay. Perfect. And then what kind of trading do you guys offer when someone buys a DTF printer from
So
you?
typically it's a 3-day process where our installer is going to come in there, install it for the solid. By the end of the first day, it's actually operational and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're going to spend the next 2 days training you. Some of it's going to be operational on the printer itself and on the dryer, but then it's also how to use CADLink
Okay.
and how to actually get. So one of the cool things that CADLink can do is if you get an image and you don't want to print red, I can actually pull the red out and not actually print it.
Oh, wow.
So it's learning those things on how to use the software. That's probably the biggest training aspect of the whole thing. But once we've trained you for the 3 days, it's not like we're gone.
Yeah.
We're here to support you at any point in time.
You're good at ghosting.
We are. We really are. Yeah.
What kind of maintenance do the machines take?
Okay, well, so the Mamakis have a 1-year warranty on everything. So you really don't have much maintenance. And after that, as far as maintenance is concerned, it's not a lot. It's not like the Chinese units. It really isn't. You can turn it off and forget it for the weekend. You don't have to keep it running. You don't have to keep the humidity high. I don't have to put it on the capping station all the time. It is pretty indestructible. It's not a new
That
platform.
sounds like a challenge.
I'm sure I'll find someone to break it. I'm sure. But it's not a new platform for Mamaki.
Yeah.
This is actually an engine they've been using now for about 5 years that they use for a different application that has been proven. So then they just adopted it for DTF.
And do you guys have these in stock right now?
We do.
Okay. Are there different levels to the DTF printer? Like, you can get like a 4-station press, 6-station press, 8-station.
Well, Mamaki makes 2 different versions. They make the 150, which is a 1-headed unit, and then they make the 300, which is a 2-headed unit.
Do you sell both of them?
We do sell both of them. The 1-headed unit runs at about 20 linear feet, and the 2-headed unit runs at 60 linear feet. So although it's 2 heads versus 1, it actually is 3 times faster.
Oh, wow. And then I know you don't want to quote exact numbers probably because things change with shipping and bringing things from overseas, but like what's the average price point, like entry level price point to get your shop up and going with DTF printing?
So if you go with the 150, so the dryers are the same. So that's the other thing that Mamaki does different than everybody else is no other printer has a 32 inches wide. All the Chinese units are 24 inches wide.
Okay.
So the downside to 24 inches is if I'm doing a full frontal print, I can only get 2 prints.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 2 prints, and then I've got about a third of my sheet is wasted.
Oh, that sucks. You
It
just
does
said
suck.
film was expensive.
Film is expensive. Film is your most expensive part. So if I'm wasting a third of my film, that's a big waste.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you go to 32 inches, I can actually get 3 full frontal prints on a 32-inch film.
Okay.
So that's one of the, that's a big factor. So whether you go with the 150 or the 300, they both print in 32 inches, and the dryer takes the 32 inches.
Okay.
So your entry point roughly on a 150 is going to be somewhere in the $25,000 to $27,000 range. And in the 300, you're going to be in the 35 to 37,000.
And
range.
is that for the printer and the dryer, or
Correct.
just the printer?
Printer and dryer. The
Okay,
full
that's not
setup.
bad. That's not bad considering, and then now I see where you're getting your $2,000 of transfer price point per month. To add it in shop. That's really interesting. You know, like I love DTFs. I love the versatility of them. You can put them on shirts, you can put them on hoodies, you can put them on hats.
I love them on hats. I think they're really cool on hats.
They're really cool. Like, you know, the detail with embroidery, it gets difficult when you have like fine lines and everything like that. And to be able to offer your customers like multiple print locations on a hat with fine detail, like DTF, we would be nowhere without DTF on that. So.
And there's other things
really
there's
awesome.
other things to remember when you're looking at DTF too, and it's all about production, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing you got to think about when I get a DTF printer is okay, well, I also have to think of my transfer unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So am I going to get a 2-headed semi-automatic transfer unit, so like you guys have, so that is a really fast transfer process, or am I going to do it single-headed, which makes it really slow?
Yep.
If you have a Stampinator, now I can use it on my press, and now I've got a press that's doing transfers, that's doing a ton of them, right? So that's something you think about, as well as cutters. So how am I going to cut out my images?
Yes. And that's something we have not talked about, and I think a lot of people don't talk about, is when you're getting DTF transfers from other suppliers or in-house with these printers, and you're not getting super colors, which are like cut already for you. You do have to think about the time to cut in between all the designs, and like how things are ganged together, and are they too close to save film, or
Oh, 100%.
or like you have to factor in the time for cutting all these things too.
It depends. That
That
depends
bit us
on
one time.
depends on how much you want to automate it, right? So there are cutters that actually work with CAD Link
Okay.
that literally will automatically cut out every single image.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Like not a pair of scissors, or
Not a pair of
you're talking
scissors.
something on the machine.
It does it on its own.
That's pretty cool.
So
I
when
like
you
that
get done with
idea.
your roll, you basically take your roll off of the dryer and you move it over to the cutter, and you feed the cutter, and it does the rest of the work for you.
All right, I'm adding this to my list then.
It's cool. It's
Yeah,
cool.
that is really cool. So you guys are stocking these. So like, what's the turnaround time if I placed an order today on?
Well, so this is the downside right now to producing a system that everybody wants. Is Mamaki is doing a really good job of not releasing too many printers, so that they make sure that they have the consumables behind it. Because the last thing you want to do is flood the market with a bunch of printers and then no one can get ink.
Yeah.
Right? That would suck.
I would be
So
furious.
you want to make sure that our ink production is keeping up with the units that we're placing in the field, right? So right now, all of our February units are already sold.
Okay.
So right now we're taking orders for March, for our March shipment. So right now Mamaki is releasing to us basically 15 300s a month.
Okay.
So that is basically across the nation, every distributor is only getting 15 units per month. So that enables them to continue to make sure the placements are accurate and good placements, but also to make sure that their supply of ink is going to stay steady and grow steadily as the market grows.
So this is an interesting point. The ink that these DTF printers take, you can only use Mamaki ink with it. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So, and do you stock the Mamaki ink?
We do
in-house?
stock the Mamaki
Okay.
ink in-house, yes.
Perfect. Anything else you think anybody should know about
Yeah, so
DTF printing?
sure. So a lot of the cool things about DTF is there's some new things that are coming out, which is regards to the film. So there's called specialty films. So you have glitters, you've got a silver glitter, you've got a gold glitter. We have a reflective film, which is really cool. So for those of you who are trying to get rid of 3M tape, just for jogging, it's not going to be ANSI rated, but hey, if I'm trying to create something reflective and do some really cool stuff with that, there are really cool reflective films. They have glow-in-the-dark film. They've got all kinds of specialty films. So as this is continuing to evolve, we're actually able to do some really cool things that we weren't necessarily able to do, or kind of a pain in the ass to do screen printing wise.
Okay, cool. This has been really interesting, Aaron. Slightly technical. But
I'm
really interesting.
trying to keep it as simple as possible. There's a lot to it. So
I appreciate you being on the show today, and good luck
Well,
on
thank
these
you.
DTF printers.
I'm
excited
appreciate it.
to see one in a shop and up and working.
Well, sure. So for everybody out there, we are going to actually have an open house. It's either going to be the second or third week of March, and we will actually have these in our demo room, fully up and printing. So feel free to come out and join us. We'll have food trucks. It'll be a good time.
Awesome. Until next time.
Absolutely. Take care.
Cheers.